So in this video, I will be making a medieval peasant dress, and I will be explaining about how relatively easy it is to make a medieval peasant dress. Some of the pictures shown are of peasants and some are not, just to give a relative idea of what my inspiration is for this gown. I will be aiming for somewhere around the 13th to 14th centuries, but it's kind of everywhere. The basic pattern for a medieval gown is fairly simple. You got rectangles, you got squares, you got triangles. This goes for the shift as well as the overdresses. At this time in history, they were just beginning to learn how to make more fitted garments, so it's fairly simple. So you're gonna want to, well, excuse that drawing, but this drawing, you're gonna want to get some main measurements of your shoulders, your bust, your waist, and your hips. So break out that measuring tape and get to it. First, I'll be making the shift, which is the undergarment. I'm just making it out of white cotton, but I took my shoulder measurements. My shoulders from shoulder to shoulder are about 15 inches, but I made the actual, like for the pattern, I made them 20 inches just to give it some extra space and go off the shoulder a bit. And my arm length is 27 inches, and the entire length of the shift I made 40 inches. Again, here is the pattern for the shift. It's fairly simple. You got two rectangles, you got two smaller rectangles, you got two squares, you got triangles. It's pretty simple. Again, I made the shift 40 inches long in length. I made my sleeves 20 inches long. I made it 12 inches wide at the top for the shoulder. It's about 7-inch long gusset, and I cut out 3 triangles. And I attempted to make a little diagram on how I intended to finish my seams with a feld stitch. In case you don't know how to feld stitch, I don't think this is very helpful, but I'm sure there's a video somewhere on how to do it. So I laid out my 3 yards of fabric that I bought. I used white cotton. The historically accurate fabric would be linen, but cotton's a little bit cheaper. Again, rectangles, squares, and triangles is essentially all you need to make a medieval shift. Once I cut those babies out, I pinned the shoulders in place so that way I could see how wide I wanted my neck hole. Yeah, that's how you just take a pencil and you just draw on the neck hole. It's that easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy with a cherry on top. I went back a few times after this and adjusted it just to make the neck hole a bit wider and lower, as you can see here. And then you pretty much just sew everything together. Here, I pinned it all together. I got the triangles in there, otherwise known as the gores, and I started sewing. And that's it. That's voila. That's it. That's the shift. Just triangles, rectangles, squares, and all sorts of fun stuff. Easy peasy lemon squeezy with a cherry on top. Now for the actual dress. It's going to be longer, but the pattern's essentially the same. You can tweak it a little bit to make it more fitted in the bust, which I did, but you can always just keep to the simple rectangle shaped body. So I got my bust measurement as well as my waist measurement in there, and yeah, as you can see here, I tweaked the pattern a bit. This sleeve, I just added some length to the top and made it just so it would fit into the armholes a bit better, so I wouldn't have to use another gusset, which is the square piece underneath. And of course, it's longer, so the triangle's going to be longer, and as well as the actual middle pieces. And this is why I got my bust and waist measurements, so I could actually have it fitted a bit. Again, you can always go with the more simplistic pattern, which is the rectangles and triangles. I just wanted to make it fitted. And here are the pattern pieces I cut out with my green flannel fabric. Flannel is not historically accurate. You would want wool or linen, but again, flannel's pretty cheap and it's also kind of warm, so it's good. I wanted to use it. And these are the pieces. Sorry for my messy garage, by the way. As you can see, the back and the front of my dress are different. The front has more of a curve to it for my bust, and this is my neckline. The back is higher and the front is lower. Again, sorry for the messy garage, but this is the back of my dress. I am going to cut a center line from the bottom to where about my waist is so I can put the gore in, as I'm going to do this to the front as well. And so I started sewing in the gores, which are the triangle pieces. Again, I just had cut a long slit from the bottom to about the waistline in the center back and the center front, and they also go on each side of the dress as well. And here's some footage of me trying to put in a pin one-handed for some reason instead of using a tripod. Gonna sew it all up, and you'll have your dress without its sleeves. All the gores in place. There's 4 on each side, by the way. I only put 3 gores in the shift because I had ran out of fabric, but I had enough fabric for this, and there's 4 because you're going to want as much fabric as possible. By the way, I used 6 yards of this flannel. I got it on sale. It was like around like $24 or something like that. Next, I sewed together and sewed on the sleeves, and the dress is pretty much done. Next, I'll be finishing all the seams and hemming, and this is the center front where I will be putting in some eyelets so I could put some lacing through. This is the felled stitch, by the way, which I think I failed to display in my diagram earlier. I didn't something to that extent. You get your seam ripper out, by the way, and I just started making some holes to make some eyelets, and please excuse how ugly they are. But I tried my best, and I just kept going anyway. Here they are. My advice is to not strive for perfection, because if you do, you might never get any of the stuff you want done. And voila, finished. I accessorized by putting on some belts and some necklaces, and that's pretty much it.